Welcome to Podnutz, a computer repair podcast, episode number 154. I am your host, Jeff Halash. It's our live call-in show for computer repair techs. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Let me introduce the co-host. We have Marvin Bee from maninthevan.net. How you doing, Marvin?
I am doing okay.
Excellent. Also joining us today, we have Aaron Michael from TechieTutors.com. How you doing, Aaron? Oh, can we hear you? Aaron might be muted.
Mute button. I'm doing superb. Thank you, Jeff.
No problem. Today we are missing our illustrious co-host, Chris Carruthers. He is not feeling well, so keep him in your prayers that he bounces back and he's with us next week.
Wait a minute. How sick is he?
I don't know.
We got to pray for him?
He just said, well, I guess he's not dying sick, but, you know. Nobody likes to be sick and laid up, right?
I mean, I'll pray for him, but, I need to know how bad he is.
Anyways, let's go ahead and get started with this, what we're going to talk about this week. First of all, let's start off with, Aaron, what types of things have you been doing in your business lately?
Well, yesterday I did a home security system, and I've done a lot of those for like commercial setups or businesses or whatever, but this is one of the first ones that I've done for a home, and it was kind of fun because I got to use I went to school for drafting, and I got to use my skills to make a little diagram of the outside to make sure we had the angles covered and placement and things like that, and then spent half a day in an attic and doing wiring. That was, old school from back in the day. I used to have to do that all the time, so it was kind of fun to get out into a house and then help somebody set up coverage so that they're going to be able to make sure that their mailbox is safe, driveway is safe, no one's going to break in, no one's going to steal packages off their door. What had happened to this individual is they had their ID stolen, and someone had ordered a washer and dryer to their house and then just picked it up from the driveway, I guess. When they dropped off and delivered, he's like, oh, okay, I'll take care of it, just leave it right here, no problem, I'll sign for that. And then the driver left, and I'm supposing put it in a truck and drove away. And also had ordered, some vacation stuff like zip lining and boat cruises in Hawaii. And so he was kind of helping me go over and get all the information, his backstory. But it was fun doing the setup for him. In addition, I've been trying to kind of make some nice formal forms so that I can send out proposals and letterheads and things like that, so everything will be unique with the branding, and that's been kind of fun for me too, brushing off some graphic design skills and formatting things and making it hopefully look cool and professional.
Now, are you doing your own type of logo, or you're hiring that out? How do you deal with that stuff?
I'm going to end up doing my own. Like what I have right now is just a real quick thing I kind of put together. There's a bunch of free art that you can get out there. So I got some free art and made some basic adjustments and put my name on there. But I'm working on doing something different now. Everything's coming up on the 1 year mark because officially kind of launched the end of 2014. So now I'm kind of refreshing and renewing, taking what I've learned over the last year, and I'm gonna try to do things a little bit better going forward.
That's a very good point. I know a lot of times I will do that about once a year. I'll go through a lot of my stuff and just kind of make it a little bit better, or maybe see if there needs to be any adjustments in my paperwork, logos, things like that. Now, I will look at that stuff on an ongoing basis as far as if I run into a problem and it's not on my paperwork, I will add that in mid-year or whatever. But I always go over my stuff just to make sure that everything is kind of moving forward with the times. One of the things I don't want to have, and I don't know how important this is, maybe it's not that important because there's a lot of booming businesses out there, and quite honestly, a lot of these people have websites that look like they're from the 90s, and it works for them. Yours doesn't even look like it's from the 90s. Yours was something totally different than that. No. But it's one of those things that I look at and I go, how much time do we spend in this stuff? But I think if you take once a year, take a handful of hours and just kind of see if you can make some adjustments. And sometimes when you come up with things, it makes it look cool. And you kind of feel satisfied having that stuff. And if you've done it yourself, then you get that satisfaction there too. It's kind of like you had me with the setting up the cameras, security cameras at your customer's house until the point of going up in the attic. At that point, I would have said, no, I'm gonna hire
Yeah.
somebody out to do that.
Well, I've got a background in AV install, so I used to do custom home theaters and like home automation from like the grunt side of it, like getting
Yeah.
up in the attic and getting dirty and fiberglass all over your arms and whatnot. But so it was kind of fun to go back and do that. Whereas more of what I do now is not necessarily pulling cables and all that. Although I'll do it time to time, like this, for example, when it comes up, and you know, I don't mind doing it most of the time.
You are a brave man because there's no way. I used to
It's
do all
fun.
that stuff too, and I don't do it anymore. No, thank you. I usually hire, a 16-year-old kid to climb up. They're willing to do anything.
Yeah.
So anyway, no, that sounds good. Sounds like your business is going, and you're getting close to that 1-year anniversary, so that's exciting. So,
Yeah.
Marvin, what types of things are you working on in your business?
Well, my week in review is actually kind of slow. I did a small Office 365 migration Friday night, Saturday morning. Went smooth as butter, and I like that. I
Now, how small
had
was it?
4 people.
Okay. How big were their mailboxes? I'm sorry, I got to ask these
Their
questions.
mailboxes were decent sized, 2-3 gigs, but it was a on-premise exchange transfer to Office 365, so I was able to do a lot of pre-staging of their mail before Friday night, so it really wasn't that big a deal.
Do you use that software, MicroWiz or whatever it is?
MigrationWiz, .com, yeah. It's.
I couldn't remember the name of it.
I'm telling you, it's great, and for techs that are doing it on their own, I mean, the prices are on there. I get a discount because I'm actually doing this through AppRiver, and I've got both a referral and a reseller account with AppRiver, so I get some discounts on those licenses. But the migration, I mean, they have tools set up that you can do it from Exchange, from another Office 365 tenant. So if you had somebody that was using, let's say, Not Your Mama's domain reseller,
Okay.
and you wanted to get off of that and go on to, another Office 365 provider, you can do a straight Office 365 to Office 365 migration without having to back up all of the user's information, which is the way we had to do it before. You had to download everything, put it in a PST file, and then re-upload it to the other Office 365. But with this tool, it's a straight tenant-to-tenant migration. All you do is change the profile for the user, and it takes just a couple minutes on the desktop.
Now, with the migration whiz, you said there's a cost to it. What's the cost normally for most people to get that?
Well, the ones that I've been doing, I think, are $11.95 is their retail. They've got different prices because you can actually have it to where you can use that tool to actually set up all the Office 365 accounts for you. You can have it migrate not just their mail and their contacts and calendar information, but you can actually migrate storage. So if you needed to migrate storage from one server up to Amazon, Azure, or whatever, those tools will help do that as well. So migrationwiz.com has, I mean, there's probably a dozen different tools on there that it does.
Okay. Now, to me, that seems like the price would be worth it doing what we do. Would you go back to doing it manually at any point? Is there any reason to do that anymore?
Not a chance.
Okay.
I mean, the cost is really minimal, and it's I look at that the same way I look at all the costs for all my tools now. If it saves me enough time, then it's a no-brainer. And I mean, think about it. All I have to do on that tool is I go up and set up the user account, make sure that it can authenticate to the server, and I can tell it where to connect for the new Office 365 account. And then from that point on, all you do is hit a button telling it to, you can do, you can have it verify the authentication to make sure you have all the passwords right before you even start. You can then do a pre-stage. So in the case of the previous customer I did where we had almost 60 gigs of data to migrate, I could migrate all of their data before the day that we were going to do the migration so that it grabbed all of their mail prior to the previous 30 days. So all of their old mail was already in their new Office 365 account before we did the migration. So that Friday night, you hit another button that says full migration. It brings over the rest of their mail, syncs up, and then technically all I have to do is wake up Saturday morning, log on to their machines, delete their old profile, create a new profile, and their mail starts coming in, and for all practical purposes, you're done.
Okay.
I mean, the amount of time it saves, because if you had to go in and download or back up each person's mail to a PST file, that's a half hour to an hour per station on a small mailbox. So at this point, it's less than 15 minutes per mailbox if everything goes well. Now, granted, you're going to have some, the larger mailboxes will still take time to migrate, but that's time that I'm not actually having to sit and wait for the backup or wait for the upload. All I have to do is every now and then I'll go to the dashboard, check and see if there are any errors, and for the most part, I start a migration at 6 o'clock Friday night. Sometime over the night it's done, and if I really wanted to start, doing the new mailboxes that night, I could, but then Saturday I usually do the mailboxes. I'm done by noon, customer's happy, and that's it. As opposed to before, it would have taken me all day to back up the mail. Friday, I'm up till midnight, backing up mailboxes, uploading mailboxes, and then I'm spending all day Saturday, uploading the mail. It's a no-brainer.
Now, do you make a backup of the PST file just in case something goes horribly wrong?
Well, no, because the PST file, if you're doing it as a PST file, the PST file is still on the customer's system. So in a sense, you're creating a new PST file or a new OST file with Office 365. So the old one is still there. So I can still grab it if I need to. In the case of a Exchange migration, the Exchange server is still there. It's still intact. If I need to pull something out, I just go onto another station, log in as that user, and then I can grab whatever I need out of the Exchange server that way.
I'm just wondering with using software sometimes if it will corrupt the PST file for any reason, or if something like that would happen. So that's the only reason I would think of. Now, not that, again, I get a customer's machine in, I should make an image. I don't.
Well, the problem is if there's corruption, it's usually going to be before you're doing all that stuff. Okay. So that's why you check it and see if there's errors, and then if you got to fix it, before you migrate it, then you do that, and then you might do a backup. I haven't had to run into that problem.
Okay.
Partly because I do so much maintenance on the Exchange server anyway, that I haven't had to worry about that. Now, I will probably be doing a lovely migration from POP accounts to Office 365 in the next month, so I may have a whole nother appreciation at that time.
In that Migration Wiz will do that also, correct?
Well, it claims it does. The problem is they're using a mail client that's not Outlook. They're not using a web portal. They're downloading their mail into this crappy little emoticon-based Incredimail piece of crap client or whatever. So.
You're not very opinionated on that, are you?
Yeah, tell us how you really feel about it, Marvin. Don't hold me.
Besides that, I like it.
That's great. Awesome. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and start and go into some emails. All right, first email is from Rob Berger. He said thanks. He says now this was from last week. Rob called in and basically said that he had a hard drive hooked up via USB 3.0 dock to his computer. He was trying to back up the files, and it was sitting there for over 24 hours. So here's what he said. He said, shut my machine down and added the customer hard drive to the SATA port, powered up, and was able to copy at 40 megabytes a second. So much for depending on my external USB 3 dock. Thanks for the suggestions, Rob. Rob, appreciate the email and the thank you, and we were glad to help. That's the types of things that we want to do on here, is be able to help you guys as technicians to be able to solve some of these problems that you come up against, because let's face it, it's nice to get a quick answer to be able to solve your problem quickly. That's why we're here. All right, second email. This one's kind of long, so pay attention. This is from Sybil Haynes. It says, Dear Jeff and Chris and crew, my son is going to a local community college majoring in computer repair. I didn't know there was such a thing. He was supposed to take an A+ exam over the summer, but he got nervous when he saw how much 1980s and early 1990s technology is on the exam. And his college only covers Windows XP through Windows 7, which I thought that was a little bit odd. Do you guys know anything about that as far as what? I have not looked at the A+ exam in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, it's one of those things, once you do it, you don't really have to do it again. So, as I understand, there's a whole new version out now. The test now is different than what we would have taken.
Well, okay. We don't have to take it again, but
yeah, exactly.
Now you have to do it every, I don't know, 2 or 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, continuing education, which is good. I think that's good. All right, so he says, I also need a desktop that functions well. I have a Windows 7 desktop that is painfully slow and have a desktop that has been gutted for parts in a Windows Vista. I thought him being able to get one of these computers up to speed and running well would build his confidence. On the Windows 7 machine, he did a disk cleanup, disk defragmentation, even though it was only 2% fragmented, and did Norton's Disk Optimizer. This improved the performance to where it was 4 to 6 months ago, which means it is still painfully slow, but somewhat usable. On Friday morning, it took me 15 minutes to pay 2 bills, which, as I said, is how the computer functioned 4 to 6 months ago. It had been much slower before his work. I'm using that machine to type this email, and I'm typing and then waiting for the computer to catch up to me, just like at my job in the 1980s, actually. My son says that I have a slow processor and it will always be slow, but he's thinking that the next step should be to download CC Cleaner and fix the registry. I heard on your show that CC Cleaner has changed recently, and I'm nervous about poking around in the registry. So I decided to email you before taking the step. It says, I bought the computer in December 2011 on clearance and just before I moved, and it seemed okay at first. So let me handle the CC Cleaner. So what we were talking about with CC Cleaner, it has its own built-in monitoring tool when you load it now. So it runs in the background. The old CC Cleaner, or I'm sorry, the old C Cleaner would just, you could run it, go in the registry, clean out the registry, clean out startup items. You could remove it or leave it on the system and only run it as needed. Now they kind of monitor in the background, which I don't like having all those processes running when I've already got other software that's running, whether it be virus scans and all that type of stuff. So I don't leave it on the system anymore. Now, you guys tell me, but I've never had a problem with CCleaner hosing my registry. Have you guys?
No. I mean, it's not combo fix. Sorry. No, it's fine. They have a bunch of other cool features in there that I haven't used as much personally because I just have used other tools for that. But they have like an uninstaller that I would usually use Revo instead of. But yeah,
right.
No, I haven't had an issue.
Marvin, you?
I've not. Okay. Not in terms of the registry.
Okay.
The only times I've had an issue is if we clean out, every bit of their internet history, and all of a sudden they go back and their settings aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
and they have to remember, their settings or their password for a particular website. That's the only thing. But
oh, see, I'm mean like that because I reset everybody's browser and don't really care. But
if we're doing a malware cleanup, oh, sorry, must have been the malware.
That's exactly what I'd say.
I have a person that when they got their machine back, and this person has no interest in knowing anything about computers, which is a little bit frustrating, but whatever, it's a paying customer, so I'll take it. You know how when you open up and there's a setting to make sure that your favorites bar is at the top or at the side or whatever.
Yes.
And I didn't have it set up so the favorites bar was at the side, and I got like a panicked call or as an email or whatever. All my web pages are gone. All the web pages are gone. They're all missing. I'm like, web pages don't go missing.
The internet's broken.
Yeah. Yahoo's down. They're all down. AOL's gone. Yeah, just because I had forgotten to put the settings back the way they were.
That's a good point. I usually point them to the direction where they go. You do things like Internet Explorer 8 to Internet Explorer 10, and it will change or even 9. It will change where the favorites are. Now you got this little star in the right-hand corner. I'll usually remote in and go, yeah, just click over here. Oh, it's on that side now. Yep. I don't even offer to put it back. So here's where it is. Just deal with it. But you know, I like people to learn new things sometimes, and it keeps their mind going. So, but going back to registry cleaners in themselves, anyways, I don't really think that registry cleaners do a whole lot. A lot of times, the reason I will do a registry cleaner and other things and other temp file cleaners and stuff like that is so that my scans, if I'm doing a scan on the system, will take a shorter amount of time. Other than that, I don't know that that's going to really solve any problems. There's no magic bullet with the registry, in my opinion. There hasn't been for, I don't know, ever, to be honest with you. I think a lot of times it makes us feel better to get all that junk off of there that's not being used anymore. A lot of times the links and stuff, the registry keys that it's getting rid of, are ones that are not attached to anything anymore because you uninstalled a program or whatever. And so, yeah, we can get that cruft off of there or that stuff, but does it really matter? Do you guys have any opinions on that?
Well, I really only use the registry cleaner after I've done a bunch of cleanup of other stuff.
Okay.
And you know, if you're trying to pull certain hooks out of a program, for instance, I was doing a refresh of a computer where I did a deactivation of Acrobat 9.0.
Okay.
And for some reason, it would not deactivate until I went through and cleaned out all the internet stuff so it could get an internet connection, and then I did a registry clean. Then it was able to deactivate.
Now, did you use a tool for doing the registry clean?
I used D7, so I used the seed cleaner automated, and I used the internet reset tools and did all the temporary file cleanups. So I just did it as part of my stuff. But in terms of registry cleaners in themselves, I don't really put much stock into them, and I don't ever recommend to an end user that they do it.
Right.
Just because I don't want to give them the opinion that it's going to be a magic potion for them. But yeah, but after, you know, I'll run it after I run my Revo or my IOBit uninstallers, and even though those will go through the registry and remove settings and stuff, you know, after you do a malware cleanup, after you do all of those things, still run it. It'll still clean up some stray entries.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
What I found is when I have a program that has hooks in the registry, which a lot of times stuff will be left behind by even the regular Windows uninstaller program or whatever uninstaller the company puts with their product, I found out that I've had to go into registry and actually manually pull that stuff out in order to get things to let go. I don't know that I've ever, and maybe I've just been fortunate, but I don't know that I've ever had CCleaner or any other registry cleaner actually get all that stuff out for me. It seems like I've still had to go back in and manually remove those hooks to get them to either reinstall new or, you know, upgrade, something like that.
Well, the good cleaners now are going to be cautious and not rip that stuff out. So that's why we can use it and recommend it if we needed to. I mean, probably 15 years ago, you know, cleaning a registry would have, you know, wiped out a system. You know, back in the days, of, you know, it was more than 15 years ago. I'm thinking of Windows 3.1 and 95. You know.
Now, with that being said, though, I will tell you that back in the day, Windows 98, Windows XP, I would have machines sometimes that I would go to do a cleanup. Now, we're not talking about the registry cleaner at this point. We're just talking about a regular cleanup using CCleaner. It was common to have upwards of 20 plus gigs of stuff that it got rid of. Old programs, old files, different things laying around, just stuff that didn't need to be in there, a lot of stuff from your app data folder, stuff like that. So back in the day with the smaller drives and stuff, it kind of made sense to do those type of cleanings. Nowadays, it's like we have so much room with these big drives, it's like, what do you need it for? So it makes me feel better, so I guess that's why I still use it.
Yeah. Just kind of part of the process, you know.
Right.
I mean, I think kind of like you, Jeff, in a sense. Like I go through, and I usually use Revo on moderate to uninstall things that I know are going to be a drag, so that they won't take up scan time later when I run,
Right.
some kind of malware removal. And I do let it go through and get the registry keys. And I've always found for the most part that works out fine. But then at the end, like you, Marvin, I usually run CCleaner twice, actually. Run it once, it gets rid of a lot of stuff.
Right.
Run it again, and then it gets rid of a couple more things. And then that's one of the last things, pretty much.
Okay.
Just to clean up after whatever it is that you did. You know what I mean?
Right.
So going back to this email, so that's the first thing. I don't think that's going to help you speed your machine up at all, I guess is what we're all kind of saying here. Now, going back to, he did send me a file with the information of what his computer is, and he's basically running a Windows 7 machine, and it has a 1.6 gigahertz one-core processor. It's an AMD Athlon, the old 2650E, which I used to run 2500 Bartons back in the day, which is an AMD processor, and that was probably well over 10 years ago. So,
Yeah.
I'm looking at this machine, and I go, this machine is just really, really old. He's got 4 gigs of RAM on it. Part of that's being used by the video. That's probably fine, but really, with today's internet, wouldn't you guys agree that the internet is so intensive as far as graphics and different things that it's showing you, that you really, a single core processor is really not going to do you well, even just if you're surfing the internet, checking your email, stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of sounded like in the beginning that this was like, okay, we have these 2 machines that my boy's going to Frankenstein and get some practice and get some maybe skill enhancement on. And then it kind of sounded like I'm trying to use it as a functional computer. Did I mishear that?
So let me continue on. It says the Vista computer, which is the other one, is a Dell Inspiron 518-519 where the hard drive, power supply, DVD drive, and card reader were removed for Staples to build a better gaming machine for my son. I gave my son $300 for his high school graduation 2 years ago, and he decided to use it to upgrade the Vista computer at Staples. But my son had to give the tech so much advice along the way, he decided he could be a pretty good computer repair tech himself. We still have the shell because Staples ordered the wrong motherboard for the case, and I had to chip in an additional $200 for a new case. I am worried that the motherboard may be too old to be compatible with Windows 7 or Windows 10. So which computer should be fixed up for me to have a good home office type of computer, and how much should I pay my son for the work he's already done? So let's deal with the first question. Which of these computers, if any, would you fix up? Go ahead.
Can I say neither?
That was my response. Okay, go ahead.
If you're looking for go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say granted, $300 isn't going to get you far, but it's $300 isn't going to make either of these computers really. The stuff you're changing isn't going to matter too much.
No.
It sounds like we're talking about desktop computers.
Yes.
And for me, it sounded like, and I think I heard it right, that it's kind of 2 different scenarios. Are you looking for machines that you can learn on, or your son can learn on? And then secondly, if you're looking for a different computer that you can actually use by today's standards, for a good office machine, like they said, those are 2 different computers. So none of the machines that he or you have right now are going to be that office machine that's going to work fine for you with current technologies. You'll go out and spend $300 and get a desktop that'll work just fine, for what you want to do right now, and get that brand new. And then if you want to learn on those other machines, that sounds fantastic. Because that old Vista that you said is you're typing and you're waiting for things to catch up. That's not true that the computer's not going to get any better than that, because even old computers were able to work as typewriters. So you should be able to at least get it to that point if you're looking for something to brush up skills on and to learn how to fix computers on. I think that's great. I wouldn't put any money into it, for sure. But yeah, if you want to get a new computer that works, it's not going to be any of the ones that they already have.
Well, and the other thing, too, is if you think about things, we don't know that there's no hardware on there that's not – obviously the computers are working, but they're not working well.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have memory that's failing or partially failing, and it's causing a problem. You could have a hard drive that's failing. There's a lot of different things in this scenario. And what I would do is, yes, go ahead and hack on those computers to try to see what you can get out of them as far as good learning for your son. But the reality is I would probably spend $300 at a Best Buy for an HP or a Dell. You can get a Core i3 with 4 gigs of RAM, 500 gigabyte hard drive, and be happy as a pig and slop to surf the internet, do webmail, all that kind of stuff, and it works great. Those are the ones I sell to a lot of my customers just because they use it for their own home office. They use it literally for those two things, and it works perfectly fine. Now they can still watch video and do whatever they want to do. No problems. So that's what I would recommend. But as far as these other two computers, you really got to see what's working, what's not working. There's a lot of different things you can do. You can use a memory tester on an old CD, MemTest 86. You can look that up and run that on a machine, see if the memory's right. A lot of those, I don't know, probably that one is not going to have necessarily a diagnostic program on it because it may be a little bit before they started doing that on the Dells and HPs and gateways and all that. So I don't know if that's going to help you, but there's other tools out there you can see to see what's wrong with that computer, why it's not operating correctly. But I'm going to still say that a 1.6 gigahertz processor is still going to be awfully slow. And if he's using webmail, quite honestly, even on the internet, that could be a part of the problem of why it's even. Back in the day, it might have worked online, no problem. But nowadays, I've taken 7-year-old machines and put Windows 10 on them, and it worked no problem. As a matter of fact, every machine that's in the 7-year-old range that I've put Windows 10 on so far has worked better than the Windows 7 that was on it previous. And I'm talking even from a brand new Windows 7 install. I don't know what Windows 10 did. Whatever it did, it works a lot better, especially on laptops. So I'm getting, even though those wouldn't be my daily drivers anyway because they are 7 years old, but I just wanted to see what kind of performance I would get from it, or if it was something that was usable. And I might use it for a little project here or there, but nothing intensive.
Before you go on, let's be careful of just looking at the gigahertz. If we say 1.6 gigahertz is not a system we want to be using, because there are still brand new systems being sold today that are 1.6 gigahertz, but they're quad-core processors.
Yes, good point, Marvin.
So people are going to be freaked out when they look at, because there's half the AMDs are all still less than 2 gigahertz.
Right.
But they are quad-core.
And a lot of times with the quad cores, what you'll see is the gigahertz is actually dialed down. Now I've got my desktop computer is a quad core. It's a 3.6 gigahertz, and it'll ramp itself all the way. It uses less cores. It'll ramp itself up to 3.9 gigahertz, which is fine because not everything uses quad core. But when it needs to, it doesn't need as much power to run all the stuff that we're running. So yeah, that's a good catch. I didn't even think about that. You're right. I've got some old HP computers that are sitting on my shelf still today that are 1.6 gigahertz.
E4.
No, they're actually single processors.
Oh, the singles, yeah.
But they were used for a POS system inside of a shop. It was a flower shop. And for what they were doing at the time, it worked fine. I've used those computers as servers because, again, as a server, low intensity, no GUI, it ran fine. It was no big deal. But for using as a home desktop computer that I'm going to do my banking and all that kind of stuff on, no way. There's just they would not run anywhere near what I need them to run. So, as far as how much should you pay your son for the work he's already done, that's kind of up to you. Some of these things are learning process. You want to encourage him. You want to help him out. You want to make sure that he continues in this, because what it's going to take is just a lot of studying, probably on the internet. Go back and listen to some of these shows. We go through some of the different processes and things that we do, and you'll be able to learn from that. And really, would you guys say that most of the time just banging away on computers, fixing them, fixing your own stuff, is basically probably the number one way you learned? Well, actually, even from my standpoint, I learned on a lot of customers' computers, whatever. It all worked out. It's not the safest thing to do, but I was, okay.
It's one great way to learn, for sure. I don't know if I can endorse learning on the customer's computer, but whatever.
No, I don't recommend it. Don't do what I do.
Not.
Do what I say.
Yeah. No, but in that same way, I've had a lot of great mentors that have been able to explain things to me, and then maybe even months or years later, you run into that situation, and you'd be like, "That's what they were talking about." I know exactly what to do. Or you run into it yourself, and then you spend a few hours, trying to find the answer. When you finally find it, next time it comes up, I know exactly what to do.
Right.
Yeah, so it's valuable in terms of learning. I don't know, like I don't think you should pay your kid anything I would not charge my mother or father to work on their computers, but like you said, that's up to you, I guess. But you already paid Staples and didn't get the computer fixed.
Yeah,
Weird.
you would. In my opinion, on that whole Staples thing, that's a whole nother thing. Again, this is a way to learn. I would have went and spent that money, maybe saved up some money a little bit over time, and bought parts and actually built a computer, because that would have been a great way to learn. That's the way I really started working on computers, was building my own. And that helped me out a lot. John D's in the chat room says he says I wouldn't sell them a 1.6 gigahertz anything. I don't care if it's an AMD quad or not. And I will say this: so I'm running an Intel NUC Core i5 quad-core processor that's a 1.7 gigahertz with 16 gigs of RAM, 250 gigabyte SSD drive, and it runs faster than my desktop. So with that being said, don't get caught up in the gigahertz hype. It's all going to be dependent on the processor architecture and how it's used properly with the equipment that it's being used with the different parts. So just want to put that out there, because you'll see a lot of that stuff, a lot of your Core i5s in a smaller form factor, laptops and different things, will be less than 2 gigahertz. And when I saw that it was 1.7, I was like, wow, that seems really slow. But the thing is lightning fast, and I'm like, hey, it works. So I don't know how they do it. I don't get in all that gigahertz type anymore. So.
And remember, we don't always have the choice. I mean, they'll go out and buy it themselves. So.
Yeah, that's true. And even the Core i3s, a lot of times I will send people to Best Buy or whatever to buy a Core i3 machine, Dell, HP, or whatever, and that works fine for them. I do like the Intel products better, just like I like NVIDIA cards over the AMD cards, but that's just personal preference. Mm-hmm. I've used those in my systems for years. I think I get more out of them. But again, AMD is fine for a lot of things. And a lot of times it's the cost. But when you're talking about the cost on an AMD between an Intel, maybe $30 might be the difference.
Remember, Core i3 is not really quad core.
Correct.
That's the one mistake in trying to tell people, just buy the Core something.
Yeah.
Right. Well, but from a standpoint,
I do recommend, at least I found it to be a lot easier for my businesses. We do Intel quad 4s.
Okay.
And that's it. I stopped doing the AMD quad 4s a couple years ago because I put them in an office and the performance just wasn't there. And I had sold them on, we're going to get a quad core processor, things will be much better, and it wasn't.
Right. Gotcha.
So.
All right. Yeah, I'm just looking at. So yeah, John was talking about a regular desktop computer as far as traditional desktop processors that Best Buy and Staples carry. And a lot of times it's true. The stuff that they do carry in their stores is going to be lesser than. A lot of people don't realize this. A lot of times the reason you can't ever price shop and get a lower price at a different place like a Best Buy or Staples is because they actually have machines that are tagged to those stores. They're built specifically for them. So you can't find a J7 654 375 at a Staples that Best Buy carries. So it's harder to make that comparison. But like I said, nowadays for what a lot of people do, they don't need a whole lot. And I sell the Core i3s to people, and they've been perfectly happy with them for quite a few years actually. So let's see. All right, let's move to the next email. This is from episode 151, Windows 10 video driver problem. I had one machine that I had a similar problem when looking at power management. Screen brightness was missing after the Windows updates. Go to Device Manager, show hidden devices. Displays showed two generic monitors, one disabled and the other one was with the stuck driver install. I'm not sure if I remove both, then scan for device changes, or if I remove the disabled one and then updated the stuck one. But after that, I could change the brightness and use the keyboard buttons to change it as well. This was an Intel video card. Wonderful Microsoft drivers. Hope this helps. Robert. So P.S. DSL is the only option here. Can't get any faster than 380K. Jealous of the speeds you talked about. Yeah, I about had a heart attack when he said that.
Wow.
So I was like,
wow.
Poor Robert. Robert, we're sorry. Move. That's my only advice for you. No.
3G. 4G.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we still get a lot of driver cruft. And a lot of people don't realize this, but a lot of times when you're plugging things in and unplugging them and plugging them back in, you will get this driver bloat. And a lot of times you do have to go into hidden devices and see how many different ports you plug that driver into. And sometimes you'll see where they're grayed out. And the best thing to do is to just disable them, or not disable, but delete them.
Uninstall,
and restart your computer, let the computer find the proper driver for it, and see if that works. And I think it was our friend Tom Lawrence that had that problem with his wife's computer, and it was on a game or something where they couldn't change the brightness in game. So I don't know if that would help in their situation. I think they were using an AMD video card, and I think that was one of the issues. Hopefully it's solved by now. It's been months since that's been out, and I would hope that they keep up on their drivers. So, anyways. Very cool. And let's see. All right. Windows patch trouble for Windows 7 and Outlook 2010-2013. This is from our friend Jerry Bransfield. It says, Jeff, this might be a help. There was a problem with a Windows patch issued this week. Windows 7 users could have problems. It was the KB 3097877. Thanks for all your help and info, Jerry Bransfield. Thank you for the email, Jerry, and for the heads up on that. I was getting several emails during that day when that happened. It sounds like to me there was a problem with a device driver. Marvin, what went on? Obviously, it sounds like it bit you.
Well, it didn't bite me as bad as some others probably, but I had a couple of customers have it. And the reason it didn't bite me was because most of my clients were either set up on managed services where, not all the updates are pushed as soon as they come out, or we're using Windows Server update services where I approve the updates ahead of time. And right. I usually wait a few days before I approve them, but on a couple of systems or networks where they don't have a server or a domain and they just update it on their own, you just kind of went into work one day and Outlook would either just randomly crash as you're opening an email as it related to embedded pictures, or if you started to send email with attachments or pictures, it would just lock up and freeze. And it was one of those things where if you didn't know the problem ahead of time, you'd either try to recreate a profile or do a repair on Outlook, which didn't work.
Right.
And I actually looked at one for a little bit, and I just happened to do a check on, because I do get an alert from one of the companies that monitors the Microsoft updates, and I got the notification. And basically, yeah, it was a bad patch that broke it, and all you had to do is uninstall the patch, restart the computer, and then tell the patch to stay hidden in the update so it wouldn't download again. However, Microsoft, I think Wednesday afternoon, had released a new version of that patch that if you download it again, it'll work just fine.
Right. And that's what I was saying.
Yeah, it's the same number. So if you didn't install the patch, on Tuesday or Wednesday, if you install it now, you'll be fine.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to recommend, is that people go out there and actually download that patch and install it. Everything sounds like it's fixed. Sounds like people were having other problems besides Outlook. Some people were having video driver problems, computers showing black screens and stuff like that. When they removed that particular patch, basically it went away. And so I've seen, even in my systems, I will sit there and some of those patches I have to approve manually like you, and so I looked at them, and sometimes I'll approve them for the policy so I don't have to deal with it again, or I'll approve it for that particular machine. I'm still trying to work through that, what's going to be the best way to do that. I'm not really sure at this point, because I guess you could just throw everything at it, and if you have a problem with certain customers, you deal with those as needed. All right. And this is our last email for the day. All right. Dual boot, Linux versus Windows 10. It says, Jeff and guests, I don't think that you've covered this in the past. I have a computer that I've set up as a dual boot. I have everything working properly, except, of course, there is an except. When I boot into Windows, boot items are reordered and Windows is put at the top of the list. Well, that's where it belongs. No, I'm just kidding. so Linux never boots. I can manually go back into the BIOS and change it back, having Ubuntu so that everything boots properly. But when I boot into Windows, even using the Linux boot menu, it happens all over again. Any ideas? Yeah, don't use Linux. No, thank you for your time, David Van Bendigum. All right, so what I had said, I talked to, because I have no idea. I had this problem in the past. A good friend, Door to Door Geek, has helped us, or helped me in the past, be able to do a dual boot system where I was able to change the order. So basically, you can use a program called Grub Customizer, and I will put a link in the show notes. And I sent him that, and you can reorder whatever you want to boot, however you want, before it even gets into the system. So that'll load up. You can have it load up Linux every time if you want. It's your choice. Or you can have it load up Windows every time. But that's what I needed it for. Actually, in my scenario, Linux was the only thing that was booting up unless I stopped it and changed the number on it. So I wanted something I could change the order and put Windows on top because I needed it for a Minecraft server. So that's what I was using it for. But I'm setting up another Ubuntu machine on my bench machine, and I'm also going. I want something like that, so I'm going to play around with Grub Customizer and use that to change the order on the boot order and see how that works. It looks like they're maintaining it and it's keeping up to date with the Ubuntu 15, whatever they're at right now. So, hope that helps, and thank you, David, for the email. All right. Okay. So one of the things that Aaron wanted to talk about today, I put him in the spotlight.
Yeah, I was saying when you asked me.
So everybody knows, Chris got sick. He wasn't going to be on the show. Somebody else had canceled, and I contacted Aaron at the last minute, and he so graciously came on the show to share with us. So we really
going to be watching that anyway, Jeff. So like,
don't play it down. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you. There you go.
But when he got in the chat room, I said, "Hey," I said, "You got anything you want to talk about?" And he sat there and went, yeah. So with that being said, we were sitting there talking about a couple things, and this is what he came up with, which I thought was really good, and I don't think we've talked about it in the past. And this is ethical responsibilities. What types of things ethically are you responsible for as far as when you get a customer's machine if it has something on there that is illegal? And Aaron, go ahead and tell us the scenario you ran into, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. So you'll take computers and you back them up, right, before you start working on them, because that's what you're supposed to do. So that's what I typically do.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I mean that's what we all do every time. So when you do it, as maybe some of you know, on a Linux machine, Ubuntu specifically, a lot of the times at the top of the little preview bar, you know, it's going to say these are the files on your computer or whatever, and it's going to show you some thumbnails of different things that are on the computer. Well, after I had done the backup, you know, I go over there to open some other program, and you just kind of see real quick the thumbnails, and it was obvious to me pretty much at like a fraction of a second that it was how do you say, like it was illegal pornography. So that's all I'll say.
That word is, but yes.
Was it Jared style?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, it was really disturbing and it was very illegal. So so at that point, you know, like you're faced with, I don't even consider it really a question. Like, of course, the right thing to do is to report it, right? And so that's what I did. So I reported it. It was really awkward, but a deputy came out, you know, filed a report, took a copy of everything, and you know, gave me a case number and his name that I could follow up on. And I had followed up some period of time later, and they had done a whole, I guess somebody local here in San Diego County in the sheriff's office or whatever, somehow were involved in some cyber victim criminal task force, like FBI level or whatever. And they'd actually done an investigation, and yeah, it turned out to be kind of a big deal. I won't say any more about the individual, because I don't know anything about legal case pending type of things, but
Right.
it turned out to be kind of a big deal. And there's a lot of other scenarios where we've all probably run into things where you might see like a torrents or bootlegs on somebody's computer. Does that mean you feel like you have to go out there and call the FBI because they have copyrighted material on their computer that they may be distributing illegally? I mean, you can kind of decide for yourself where's your ethical line, and I don't really. It doesn't bother me. Like standard pornography, whatever. If somebody wants to use their computer for legal pornography, I am not here to judge them. I'm here to help them
Sure.
fix their computer. I appreciate it if it's not like the wallpaper on your computer, but there's been situations where it's obvious that this is a porn machine, and it's not part of my job to judge people like that. But when something illegal comes across the bench, like the right thing to do is the right thing to do. So that, I guess, is the topic I posed, and I was thinking about writing it. So it would be neat to hear whatever, I don't know, anybody else have weird experiences like that, or one where it's questionable, you don't know if you should do something about it or not.
And that's the hard part, because kind of what you talked about in certain situations where, how do you put this? Maybe somebody's life is in danger or something along those lines, or something is just that somebody should not be delving in because they have other issues. You definitely have to deal with that, and I think you did the right thing. The problem is we have all these other things, and you gave a great point of, what if you have torrents or videos on there that you're basically burning and selling, so you're selling copyrighted material. How much are you responsible for as far as dealing with that? Or do you just kind of turn a blind eye, which I would say probably 9 times out of 10, actually probably more than that, 99.9% of the time, unless it's anything other than child porn, we're probably all turning an eye and just going, hey, it's none of my business. The data's there. I backed everything up. I moved everything back. It's there. I don't see any issues. Don't really care what they do. So, Marvin, what do you think about that whole scenario?
Well, for the most part, I think that if you actually view something that is illegal to the point of Jared-style porn, there's really not a choice. In that sense, you have to call. However, the way that a lot of the work is done, I don't look at their stuff. Now, granted, if it's set up to where it comes up in a preview and that sort of a thing, you really can't look away. But I'm not obviously searching their computer looking for stuff. But it can be, anything from, their, web searches. How to kill my wife and get away with it. But for the most part, the way I do it is, the only things I really worry about outside of the Jared-style porn is if their machine comes up with an illegal copy of Windows.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, at that point, I don't work on it. And
Okay.
It's either you let me put a legal copy on, and then I can work with it, or you come take your machine.
That's a good stance, because I know a lot of people that will, and I've done it in the past, where I've just worked on a machine. I've let them know we need to get a legitimate copy on here. They don't want to do it. I still charge them for the fix, whether it was a virus remover or what. I've said, well, we can't do anything anymore. Here's what it is.
Right.
And I still take the money for that job, and you make a great point. I probably should. I probably should go, you don't want to make this legit? Here you go. And it comes back to those ethical boundaries again. How far are people willing to go in those situations?
And my logic is always this. And for my business customers, it's easy. Microsoft will come in and do an audit at some point on businesses. I'm not going to lose my business with Microsoft because you're not legal. And that's how I tell them. I'm a Microsoft partner. I work on a lot of machines, and Microsoft's not going to care, that your computer guy, just kind of turned his head. Microsoft's going to find somebody. But at the same time, Microsoft can come back to me in my business and say, sorry, you can't sell, computers with Microsoft licenses on them anymore. You can't be a partner. You can't. So I'm not risking that in my business for them. So my business customers understand that. The home residential customers are always the ones where, oh, my buddy, upgraded this. They've got a machine with an XP license but a Windows 7, home premium, and that's where I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Now, if they can produce the copy, a legal copy, then that's fine. But if they tell me a buddy put it on and they don't have the disc, well, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, I have a disc. I can fix it for you. You got to bring me the legal disc.
And you'll never be able to get it to activate again. That's the problem, because whatever they did to make it work the first time, without jumping through some hoops, which I'm not going to do. A lot of times if you download the product key for that particular Windows 7 or whatever it is, you can put it online and do a search. And most of the time you'll come up, it's either a generic one for doing an install that they basically hacked, or it is one that was used for many, many years, and finally Microsoft has cut off the activation on this stuff anyways.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Now there's one scenario where you can get a notice that says a copy of Windows is illegal, when in fact it is legal, and I don't remember the name of the malware, but basically the malware tricks you into saying that your software is illegal. But once you clean the malware out, you're fine. So, usually on my customers' machines that are HP or Dell, if you have a Windows 7 professional computer and the tag on it says Windows 7 professional, okay, you know what? That's a lie. So you clean it up, you fix it, and that notice goes away. So that's really the only case. But in terms of everything else, if it's something where, I'll be honest, I haven't ever seen anything overtly illegal like that. I do have people that will bring a computer to me and say, save my porn. And I will say, if it's all in the right place, my software will transfer it over. I'm not going to go check to make sure your porn
right.
If it's there, it'll just bring it over. That way I tell them, I'm not looking at what is there. I'm just transferring it. I'll make sure the screen comes up and your Word opens, your email opens, but I'm not going to go through, I'm not going to look, I don't care what music you have, I don't care what pictures you have, so in that sense, I get away with that. But if they ask me to do something, where they say, hey, I want to rebuild this computer, can you just put this copy of Office on there? No.
Right.
You either buy it or you show me that you bought it and we're just doing a reinstall.
Right. Exactly.
I've also seen that. Sorry, that false whatever illegal copy build whatever on the corner when someone else had worked on the machine and they had done an install but done it in such a way where they did like a skip key or something like that, or put in some kind of whatever key, and then the computer stopped working, and then they called me, somebody else, to come in, and I'd say, oh, it's illegal, but they say, no, it's impossible. I bought this computer, it's got Windows 7 on it, and it just the previous technician had done things in a weird way to where whatever key they had put in there, expired or didn't work correctly. That's the only other way I've seen it. Yeah, or whatever.
Now, I will tell you, the only other time that does happen, for most people it's not going to matter, except for people like us that use bench machines. A lot of times when you plug in an external hard drive, especially going right to the SATA port and without using a USB dock, what will end up happening is, because for whatever reason, whatever way Windows 7 is built in their algorithms that they're looking for stuff, to them that's a change in the system. And sometimes adding that hard drive will make it show that it's a illegal copy. Right. As soon as you unplug that drive after you get done backing it up or doing whatever you're doing, it goes away. So I've seen that happen several times on my bench machine. Ethical responsibilities. So Marvin, from your standpoint, so a lot of times what I'll do is, on a data backup, I will actually look at the size of the file that was backed up, and match it to the size of the file that's on the machine. Just double checking, making sure. Well, sometimes in doing that, I will actually open it up just to make sure that there are actually JPEGs there, or there's actually MP3s. I don't go sit there and look through all of them, but sometimes I'll bring it up to that first preview page just so I can tell the customer that yes, your pictures are there, your music's there, all your stuff is there. And maybe it's just my paranoia of not believing that the system was backed up properly using whatever software like Fab's Auto Backup, even though it's never failed me. It's done its job 100% of the time, never had a problem. But I still do those checks and balances sometimes. So in those cases, I guess I would run the same issue that you do, Aaron. I would see something and go, whoa. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like to Marvin's point, it's like we don't go in there and like look for your stuff or anything. And if you have sensitive material on the computer, wouldn't it be a good idea to put it, in some kind of file structure to where, it's not on your desktop or it's not on your wallpaper. If you put it out there in such a way that like I can't possibly not see it, or if like the name of your files or something whatever suggestive, I might see the name of the folder at some point in time, but I have no reason to go open stuff. I can right click and look at properties, I can see what kind of files. And like you, Jeff, in the past, like I've opened something, but typically what I try to do is have the customer check everything and say, hey, just make sure all your pictures are there. And I tell them explicitly, like, I'm not going to open your email, I'm not going to open your pictures or your documents, but I would like you to check and make sure it's all there so that within 3 days I can delete it off my server and I don't have to keep it around anymore. But if in the next few days you notice something that's not there, that maybe didn't get transferred back over, I can go in and get it. But after that, hopefully you'll let me know. Otherwise,
all right, Aaron, so how many of your customers actually go through their stuff to make sure that it's all there?
Well, depending. Like, I mean, I've had people call me, a couple days after, and it's usually because they can't find it. It's not because it's not there. It's just because they don't know where to look for it. Because it used to be, linked to this or linked to that or whatever. But yeah, I've had a few people over time call me afterwards and say, hey, I can't find whatever, my pictures. All my pictures are gone. And I'm like, they're not gone because I put them there. They're in the same place they were. It's just you don't maybe have a shortcut on the desktop anymore. So I'll help them put a shortcut on the desktop so they can find all of it. Or maybe it's not linked to the My Pictures library or whatever. But yeah, I've had people go in and tell me they haven't been able to find things afterwards. But to your point, yeah, I'm sure they didn't, deliberately on my suggestion go in and check. They just found in their normal operation they weren't able to do something they were able to do before.
Right. That's a good point. So Paco from the chat room is asking a question. He says, so what if a PC that looks to be active do a virus removal, and at the end of the virus removal you find it was activated via a crack? What do you do then? Or what process in the beginning do you check for to make sure it is legitimate? That's a good question.
I don't really check it before unless I have a reason. But I also, yeah, I don't know why I would check that before unless it said, not a legal copy or popped up or something like that, then I might address it. But otherwise, frankly, yeah, maybe I should add it to my process, but I don't.
Or if you're getting a machine that doesn't boot, which that's normally what I'll have. I'll have a machine that doesn't boot. I go in, I'm in the process of cleaning it up. I might be in safe mode or whatever. And once I get through that whole process, I bring it back up. I've already done work on the machine. So quite honestly, I want to get paid for my work. I'll bring it up and I go, oh, this is not a legitimate copy of Windows. And like I said, I'll download the product key, I'll check it out, make sure and call the customer, let them know. And sometimes the customer will say, I don't want to buy new version. My buddy put that on there. We have a legitimate copy of Windows Vista. We can put it back on here, no problem. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. So at that point, that's a great question. What do you do? Because obviously if it comes up to the desktop, you can see it's going to say non-legitimate, non-genuine copy of Windows. Now, with that being said, with Windows 10 and with all the free upgrades and all that, I don't know that that's going to be a problem. I think the last time we've probably seen that huge of a problem is going to be on Windows 7. I don't even know if it's going to affect Windows 8, to be honest. Unless somebody else has some other information on that.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever run into that. And, usually it's been, if you go to Office was always the big thing for me.
Right.
Somebody would get a hacked copy of Office.
You mean a corporate copy?
Yeah, Enterprise.
Yeah.
Enterprise copy.
2007.
They'll get a volume license copy for their home computer, and I'm like, that's not possible. And that's really been the only issue. And so at that point, I'm done. Either you buy a legal copy or I can't help you anymore.
Now, actually, that is possible, though, because Microsoft back in the day, I don't know if they still do it, but back in the day, maybe 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, maybe it was less than that. Anyways, what they would do is you could actually buy a copy for people's laptops that worked in the office for their personal computers. It was like $70 a pop.
You can install a volume license anywhere you want. It is possible. I just tell the person that when they when they're asking, well, I got this copy, I say, well, that's not legal.
From my cousin's brother's wife. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I got it from work, from my brother's work or something like that, and that's where I say, well, that's not legal. It's basically what it is, and
so
then your brother can support you.
There you go. Well, they tried, and they can't fix it. Well, that's why you're calling me?
Yeah.
So I don't know where those ethical lines are. I think we've all said that there are certain things like child porn and different things like that we are going to contact the police about. And it's not really our job as far as we're not the torrent police. We're not. I think somebody in the chat room said something about it's the ISP's responsibility if you're downloading torrents of illegal movies, yada, yada, yada. I'm not really looking for that stuff, and I wouldn't know if you ripped it off of your DVD that you have at home or your Blu-ray, which for a lot of people that don't know this, that's illegal. But it's one of those things. So you can look at your copyright agreement, and it is in fact illegal, even though I totally disagree with it. If I own the physical edition, I'm going to put it wherever I darn well please. And so with that being said, I'm not going to sit there and look and, well, where'd they get this movie from? I don't care, and I don't have that much time to sit there and go through all their stuff anyways. So hopefully, I hope and pray I will never have to see any type of child porn. Because from the other standpoint, besides getting the authorities involved, it would make me a little upset, and I don't know exactly how I would handle that. So I just hope that never happens to me.
Well, it does depend on your relationship too. Have you guys watched the show Boston Legal?
No.
It's off now.
Okay.
But there was a character on there portrayed by William Shatner, whose
of course
nickname was the name on the show was Denny Crane, who was basically a womanizing, philandering, porn kind of guy. So one of my, I'll just say customers, the name was on the door, basically downloaded porn all the time.
Okay.
In the office. And just, there's not much I can do about it. He's the one signing the check.
Right.
Until his partner finally convinced him, okay, we can't be having that in the office because other people will see that, and that's not a good example. So we were able to start blocking the porn. So he just brought his laptop in and connected it to the network and did the thing again. But his whole thing was, he did ask me one time, he goes, look, I want you to make it so that I can have this stuff on here, but that my kids can't see it.
That's not my responsibility. That's your responsibility as a parent.
I said, I don't think I can do that for you.
Right.
I can help you password protect it, but other than that, I can't go in and do anything else for you.
Right.
But it was, the relationship is tough because if they think of us as their friends, that we're going to help them. And I will say this, and I'm sure this isn't to any of the techs listening to the show or participating in the Podnutz or Tech Nibbles forums, but there are some techs out there that are just downright scumbag weasels that will help their customers do whatever they can and get stuff illegally and download whatever. I just won't do that.
Right. It's not right.
I don't think that as techs we should be doing that. And, I get tired of seeing bear share on everybody's computer.
Oh,
I don't know what that is either.
bear
I'm
share.
apparently super lame.
Yeah, we do have a responsibility, but it's not just on the illegal stuff. It's just on teaching people how to be responsible with computers. Drive responsibly. Surf the net responsibly. Type responsibly on your keyboard. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, have you guys ever had somebody approach you and say, "Hey, I got this computer. And they'll come out. This happened to me. This is why I'm asking. They start out. They bring you in a computer and they say, "There's pictures on here that got deleted, and I need to get them back. Can you recover deleted pictures?" And well, yeah, sometimes I can for sure. So let me see if I can. And do. Oh, look, I found a whole bunch of pictures. Here you go. And the motivation behind the whole thing was because they suspected their partner of having pictures on the computer and then deleting them so they wouldn't be found. And it turned into when they saw the pictures that I retrieved that I didn't look at, they were like, "Oh, I knew it, da 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 da." And that's when it came out that like basically I just helped this dude bust his girlfriend for cheating on him. I didn't know.
Sure. I mean, and that's not your responsibility. Somebody comes back to you and says, "I need these pictures recovered because they're deleted." They don't give you the scenario. Now, I'll be honest, I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, my wife travels a lot, and is there any way I can put software on there that can see what she's doing?"
Yep. Or like, can I get into my iCloud account, or can I get into her Facebook? Can you help me get into her Facebook? People ask me that.
Thank you. I said, you know what? I don't know if there's anything out there like that, but nothing that I would mess with.
The short answer is there is.
There is. Hackers for hire. They're all out there for sure. Well, and if you want to go get them, go get them. Not me.
Well, here's where I'll put in my sense on this, and then I'll have to back out because I do work for law firms. I do get asked to do forensics on computers. Some of them are, let's say, they're insurance defense. So they are looking to catch people doing stuff.
Sure.
And so they will get a hard drive or a computer, and basically the job is to go through and forensically recover whatever can be recovered from that system, whether it's emails, pictures, or whatever. So in that sense, I will do it because I'm doing it legally.
Oh yeah, 100%.
As part of the process.
Sure.
Where I will not do it is if somebody comes up and asks me, "Hey, can you help me?" No, I can't. That's not what I do. And that's all I say. I just say that's not what I do.
Well, and part of the difference is, like, your client might be the law firm, but their client is the company probably who owns that machine, whose employee maybe did something or didn't do something right. But the company that's hiring that law firm owns that computer, and they're saying, "Yes, please, look at this hard drive." Right? I mean, something like that.
Yeah, that's it most of the time. Other times it is where they will have actually recovered a drive from a defendant, from the opposing side, for the purposes of discovery.
Right, through some legal means, right? Like a warrant or something.
Yeah, right. It's a legal means. But if anybody were to just come up to me, and ask, whether it be, a friend or somebody who needs their computer repaired that's not part of that system, I just tell them, look, you know what, Google's your friend. But I can't do that. That's not what I don't know. I just tell them I don't know. Yeah. Especially, I mean, the other thing too is where a lot of it has been parents wanting to put stuff on their kids' computers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, I just say, look, there are services out there. There's Nanny Patrol or Cyber. There's stuff out there. I just don't know it, and that's just not what I do. So so I've been able to get out of it, but I'm sure at some point we're gonna be drug into this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's like this.
iPhones and tablets, and I mean.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Hey, can you reset my iPhone? Like I messed something up and I need to reset it. They pushed out some new whatever, and now it doesn't work right. Can you reset it to factory settings? Well, yeah, I know how to do that. Oh, this is a stolen iPhone. Great. Like, how was I supposed to know that? I checked it in with your information. So different, things happen. There's shady people out there, and if you're not careful, you get caught up in it, and that's not good.
Well, and I will say this: a lot of times, for those same types of people that want to do something with a stolen piece of property, I will say this, is that I don't really see, like, illegitimate copies of Windows anymore, because those types of customers are not getting these rock bottom prices, and they're not bringing them to me. So they're going and finding somebody else that'll do the work for them, and so I don't have to deal with that type of stuff.
Right. Shady people usually look for shady computer techs.
Exactly.
That's not us.
Or low end. I'll say, because if somebody can do it cheap enough, then it's worth it for me to have that stolen piece of whatever, laptop, iPhone, etc.
Yeah.
I will say this. I do see somewhere on the horizon computer stores having to follow the same type of legal stuff that pawn shops do, where if somebody brings you a device, you may have to run a serial number or MAC ID against a database to check and see if it's legal or stolen or something like that. I think that's going to be coming. It may not happen to us as service techs if we don't have a physical location, but if we've got a storefront or something where people are bringing stuff to us for repair, I can see law enforcement one day saying, look, we need you guys to start accessing this database and checking in devices that come in.
See, I would do that. I would do that 100% for free, as long as the database was free.
Right.
If you're gonna charge me to do this, yeah, I'm gonna fight you tooth and nail and go, not my responsibility. I can just turn the customer away. They're gonna go someplace else and whatever.
I think the service itself is free. I think you just may have to, purchase the right equipment or something like that, or do another terminal or something for that. But I don't think they're forced to pay for the service. But they are required by law, if they get in, gold, that they do have to somehow check and verify that it is lawfully owned by the person who brought it in.
Right.
But all electronics, all of that stuff, they have to have, those serial numbers. They have to put it in a database. And, law enforcement, I mean, you've seen the cop shows. I mean, as soon as something's stolen, they're like, oh, well, all right, get a memo out to all the local pawn shops,
Who are you going to call? Oh, wait, that's the other. Never mind. Ghostbusters.
Bad apples, man. Bad apples.
Oh, anyways. All right, well, I think we have definitely dealt with the ethical responsibilities of, I don't know if we've come to a conclusion of what we were responsible for, and I guess it's going to be down to each individual what you feel you're responsible for after seeing something illegal. At what point is it so illegal that it's just not right and you're going to turn that person in?
Well, you know what? Let me take it a step further than that even. It's your own moral compass, right? If I'm going to draw a conclusion from it, it's not going to be just limited to illegal activity. Like I don't want to sound like a jerk, but I can be sometimes. And I can think of one off the top of my head, a customer, and their demeanor, like the way they present themselves, like I found personally offensive. And that happens sometimes where someone's kind of annoying or whatever, but this individual I chose to stop working with altogether. And they weren't doing anything illegal. They were just, just the way that they behaved and presented themselves was not aligned with the kind of person that I like to do business with. So I didn't put that out there to them. I just, respectfully declined to any request for services or whatever.
Sure.
And after doing that a couple times, I think they kind of got the hint. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe they just smell bad, and that's why you decide you're going to draw the line right there. Whatever it is, and in a legal case, of course, that's a harder line for sure, and maybe a little bit more distinct. But there's a lot of things where there's gray area. I think you've talked about it before on the show where, I don't remember what the conversation was about, but somebody being really difficult, but you up the price. It was you, Marvin, yeah, and they're willing to pay the price. It's like, well, now it is worth my time to deal with them.
Sure.
At that price, they might have been annoying, but it's worth it for me right now. And you got to decide what are you willing to deal with and what are you not. There might be a lot of us out there, as soon as we see porn on the machine, we're like, you know what? That's just not my thing. And if you're going to put it out there so blatantly, you're not even going to try to hide it from me. I'm not comfortable with that kind of relationship with you. So, and you could say that all in your head and choose not to do business with them, but there's a lot of decisions you have to make ethically.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and that's what you have. That's for each individual person to make for themselves and figure out what it is, what they're comfortable with dealing with, and if you're not, You know, like Aaron said, turn them away. You know, I just can't work on your machine because of. Now, you got to be careful how you do it because you don't want to come off as because you're a certain way, I'm not going to take care of you. You don't want to get into discrimination or anything like that.
No.
But coming from the standpoint of, you know what, I don't work on that type of machine. Whatever.
I can give you an update. I remember exactly what you were referring to, Aaron, the customer that I just kept raising the price and they kept paying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it finally did get to a point where they basically got to the point of saying, can you help us get to the point where we don't have to call you? Because they realized that they were, you know, paying way too much to have me do this. And I just said at the point, you know, I said, I can't teach you how to do this. If you want, and basically what it was basically a sonic wall router that they were trying to set up firewall rules and mail filtering and all of these things, and they would go in themselves to try to fix it. After I would fix it, and I basically got to the point where I started doing backups of my configuration so that if they went in and changed anything, all I did was went and changed it back.
Oh my gosh.
To get it to work. But I had to, you know, they wouldn't let me do it remotely. I had to physically go there, and that was why I got to the more where I'm like, look, it's going to cost you this much money for me to show up on a Saturday afternoon to do this for you. I got to have it. All right, fine. Have the check waiting for me. But basically, I got to the point and said, look, if you don't want to call me, you got to call somebody, then you might as well call SonicWall.
Right.
Well, we don't want to do a subscription. You don't have a choice. You either pay them or you pay me. Make up your mind.
Right. Exactly.
And so it wasn't where, you know, basically I made them make the choice. So it wasn't like I was being the bad guy from that. I'm like, you're going to pay somebody. Who do you want to pay?
Right. Very good. All right. Well, a great show, guys. Great information. A lot of things to think about, definitely. Marvin, if people want to find out what you're up to, besides driving around this somewhere in Florida in a van,
looking for a new van. Looking for a new van.
Where can people find you at?
Actually, I will say this. If you are driving a van, all of you out there listening in audio land, if you have a picture of yourself in a van, now let me be a little bit more specific. The van needs to say something about computer repair on it or a computer store. I don't want white panel vans. But if you've got a picture of a van for your store, your business, send it to me. I'm going to start making a little collage website to Men in the Van. So we will do that.
Nice. Very cool. So definitely do that. And how could they can just get a hold of you on maninthevan.net?
Maninthevan.net. Yep, my email is there. Phone number if you want to call and discuss more van talk with me. And I am MB Systems Inc. here in this chat. I'm Uncle Marv in the Tech Nibble forums, and I'm around.
Thank you, sir, for sharing a lot of good information. And Aaron, where can people find you at?
Easiest way to get a hold of me just be to go to my website, www.techytutors.com, and at the top right is all the social icons of your preference.
Absolutely. Appreciate you coming out and sharing last minute. Great topic today. I think that's going to be the name of the show, Ethical Responsibilities. All right, so come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/live. Joining in on the conversation by calling in live and hanging out in the chat room. We have audio available over at podnutz.com or subscribe using your favorite podcatcher. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Computer Repair Podcast. You can email questions and feedback to this show using podnutz@podnutz.com. Or you can leave a voicemail, which we will play on the show, at 1-888-697-0162. I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters. We definitely appreciate you giving to us. You also can be a supporter, too, by going to patreon.com/Computer Repair Podcast. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast. Excellent. Singing in the rain. Okay. Anywho.
It's winter time out here now.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, we lit a fire last night after. No, seriously, we went out with my friend to Outback for his birthday. Afterwards, we lit a nice fire, and I got my sweater right here, ready to go. Of course, I'm wearing shorts and no shoes, but
Well, you know, that's the California way, right?
Yeah. I saw a meme that. Go ahead, sorry.
I almost put a jacket on last night.
Right?
It was 73 degrees or something.
Oh, you guys, stop it.
It's just bitter.
I mean, I put it out, and it was like, I felt a little breeze. I'm like, what the? Ooh. I walked back in.
No, it's like people everywhere are putting their tops up, and I don't know, it's weird. It's just super weird.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I saw this meme that cracked me up where they had a picture of like someone's backyard, and then one of the patio chairs was knocked over, and it said something like the California winter storm of 2014, will we rebuild? I thought that was pretty funny. A little bit of rain, wind, people lose their minds out here. It's hilarious. Because I grew up in Western Massachusetts, so like I know what weather is. I remember all that, and I don't ever want to have to see it again. It's just.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, I'm sweating right now. It's really hot in this office, and I have my window open, and it's cold outside.
It's those bright studio lights you put on yourself.
I guess, man. That's
going all Hollywood on this.
You know what's funny? It's a cheap $6 lamp with a cheap $2 fluorescent light bulb in it. That's all it is. Here, matter of fact, I'll show you. Ooh, now I could actually do it like this. This would be pretty good, wouldn't it?
Should light some candles. That'd be all right.
So I cheat a little bit. Yep, $6 lamp, man. Nothing fancy. All right. Well, I think it's already 5:30. I appreciate everybody coming out this week and watching the show. Come back next week, and we will have more to share with you. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.